I'm curious about this. What will the magazine do with this project? What will happen with this?
So the magazine is publishing a cover story on spotted hyenas next month in March 2024 that will be linked to the series.
And could this be a source for more things? Could it be, we'll do a Queens segment every month? Or, because there's so much here to unpack.
I certainly hope that this is only the first in a long series of stories that will, highlight females in the natural world.
And you worked on the music.
Yes.
Where do we start doing that? At what point? Because if you don't have a story, you don't have a script, and you don't have...
I think the project had been happening for many years prior to me being brought on. So I was on the project for a year, but it was really only within the last year and a half. So I was at the very kind of tail end.
So you get to see it where it's almost all put together?
Yeah, because music is, for this particular genre, music is just so wall to wall. It's literally, if there's 50 minutes of footage, there's 49 minutes of music. So music is so integral to the edit that they tend to have picture, if not locked, millimeters from being locked before they bring me in to start writing.
So then do you create themes for each kind of animal, or what do you do?
Whatever I want, honestly. I think that was the joy of this project, is they didn't want me to do what everybody's done before, I guess. I'm not claiming that we've kind of set out to a new genre, but I think there was a lot of leeway given to me to just experiment and to frankly be the kind of more electronic and multifaceted artist that I tend to be in my own private work and my other composition work.
Was there any kind of, which of the queens did you say, oh, this is the one I really am, I love this. This one is really good.
I have to say each episode, and I'm not just saying this, they're all so extraordinary in their own rights, but the Tiny Queens episode was a joy to work on, just for me musically, and the footage is just so beautiful and things that I've never seen before. And it just felt like a sci-fi world that I could dig into, and we got to do a fully electronic episode. So
how do you know when you got the right music for it?
It feels right.
You can feel
and then
it.
Chloe tells me that it's right.
Would they ever do that? Would they say, yeah, let's try this one again?
Of course. That's the joy of, that's the nature of this kind of collaborative process between a creator and a composer, is I'm really in service of their vision, but I think a really great collaborator within that position of being at the top of the pyramid will then say, I hired this person for a reason, go with it, and they'll kind of give me a glass box to bump up against, but I like a glass box sometimes.
What lessons do we learn having so many females involved in a project like this? Is this teaching us something else that maybe is like a subliminal message that we're getting from this?
I will say that it's luckily millimeter by millimeter becoming more and more common to be on projects that are like this, especially for myself. I know that hasn't really been your experience, though, sounds like, right?
It hasn't been my experience, but it seems like things are changing every day, and I only look forward to seeing more and more female wildlife storytellers out there.
How is it different working with females as opposed to males? Because I'm sure you work with men all the time, and then this is a different animal, if you will.
You know what? I'm not sure that I necessarily see a gender difference. I think it's just I'm lucky to work with, some of the best people in the industry every day, whether male or female.
For National Geographic, this whole realm of stories that are being told. When you look at the Genius Project, for example, and how that's going into people and things that really we didn't think about. Does that open a lot of things up for the magazine itself? Does that make it even more relevant than it ever was?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Does what?
Sure, because when we see what the National Geographic Channel is able to do, all of the kinds of programming, where it used to always would be animal related, and now it's becoming much more than that. It's history, it's everything else. Does that open things up for the magazine as well? Does that make that even more relevant as a publication?
Yeah, I think that media is constantly changing, and we're trying constantly to keep up with trends, and the magazine has done a really good job of diversifying its messaging in order to reach new audiences.
And what do you both think people will learn from watching this?
I mean, it truly does feel like a fresh take on a genre that I think most of us just adore and have such personal relationships with. So I really hope it instills a sense of wonder.
I hope that it'll help people fall in love with the natural world in sort of a new way, because the more that they love it, the more they'll want to protect it.
Did you have favorite episodes? Were there?
For me, it was, of course, the hyenas episode.
No favorite episode.
No favorite. You're very
you have to
good.
watch all of them, people.
Perfect parent. I love all my children, right?
Exactly.
It's a lot easier. What were the big challenges, though, for this? What became a larger challenge than you ever even imagined?
Well, for me, there was a little bit of a learning curve, just because even though I've been composing for a while, this was my first time within this genre. I had to learn, I think, by episode 2, I started to grasp that the music wasn't just there to tell the story, it was there to actually physically, geometrically tell the story within the cut. And once I got that, it was like, oh, okay, I understand how we're interacting with SFX and et cetera, et cetera. So that was a lesson for me.
For me, shooting the magazine story, the greatest challenge was figuring out how to photograph the hyenas without disturbing their natural nocturnal behavior. And I ended up shooting much of the story using an infrared camera and infrared lights so that I wouldn't actually interrupt what they were doing. And it ended up, getting me some of the first really intimate nocturnal scenes of hyenas that have ever been photographed.
Do you get excited when you look at something and go, oh my God, I've got I've got the picture, or do you, we'll see?
I think like many creatives, I can be really hard on myself, and so I always feel like I can do better.
Do you, did you start as just a photographer at home taking pictures, or how did it all evolve?
I picked up a camera for the first time probably when I was about 12 years old and just absolutely fell in love with it. And once I started working in Africa as a scientist, I was around animals all the time, and I was just thrilled to be photographing them, and I found that that's sort of where my passion led me as opposed to staying in science.
How are animals to work with? Are they very different than people, or are they just as difficult as people can be?
Photographing animals is vastly more difficult than photographing people. With people, you can ask them, what they're doing, what they're planning on doing next, what time they'll be at what place. And with animals, you just have to kind of read their behavior, understand how they work, and make your best guess. So generally, natural history storytelling takes a lot longer and is a lot more challenging than telling stories about people.
How aware are they of you? Do they acknowledge that you're there, or?
I was lucky to be working mostly with a clan of hyenas that's been studied by a scientist for the past 35 years. And so they're very accustomed to having research vehicles around, and they weren't afraid of us at all, which was very nice.
Have you been in fear ever being around an animal?
I did have one scary moment on these shoots where I was working on an open filming platform at a carcass of a wildebeest that lions had killed. And the lions began to fight over the carcass, really just, 100 feet from me. And as they were brawling, they were getting closer and closer and closer, and I was really concerned that they were going to end up in my lap.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. For you, not knowing this world, what is it like being around all of these people who are deeply involved with this?
I'm jealous.
I mean, would you ever consider yourself doing something like that? Would you?
I mean, in a fantasy world, it sounds like it's an incredible life path. My life is just one room with a bunch of synthesizers, and that's also my world of kind of endless imagination as well. So, yeah, I mean, I would love to go to places I haven't been before, but it's not the nature of the beast.
So when you're looking for an oral inspiration, what is that? What if you're not there and you don't hear the wind whistling through? What triggers whatever you're looking for?
I mean, this is what's so exceptional about the series is that the footage is. I mean, I've never seen things like they shot. I mean, these women have just created. I get verklempt. I don't know how to talk about it because it's stunning images. How could I not end up being inspired by it, even if I haven't had the joy of joining them in the field? But it's the raw talent within the series is very obvious, and it's it's a career that's nurtured by visuals. So I better be inspired.
Are you planning to do more in this realm then, or is it?
I haven't really thought about it, to be honest. I would love to do something like this again. I also recognize that this particular experience, and this particular team, to have this be my first experience within this world, what an absolute gift. So, yeah.
Well, it's fascinating to watch this. It's so inspiring, I think, as well, because you see things that we will never see anything like this, right? And you have a window onto a world that few get. And I would assume that is something very special to you.
I feel incredibly lucky every day that I get to see these amazing things that most people will never get to see.
Are there like benchmarks? Are there things, I want to do this now, and I want to do that now, and I want to do that? Or how do you look at a career in this kind of world?
I have about a million ideas, and I tend to kind of just pursue, 16 of them at once and see which one sticks.
And at home, do you have photographs on your walls? Or do you go, oh no, that's work?
I certainly don't have my own photographs on my walls, but I do like to have photos of other photographers that I admire.
And are they all animal related, or are they other kinds of pictures?
Not all of them. There are a lot of National Geographic photographers that inspire me, and some of them are people photographers too.
Are there character traits that you need to have to be a photographer, this kind of a photographer?
I'd say the most important trait for being a photographer, a wildlife photographer, is resilience. There is a lot of failure, you hear no a lot, and you just kind of have to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep going.
Yeah. And equipment, how much can you haul?
I have gotten, a lot of shoulder strength from
Okay.
picking up all of my heavy
You don't have to
bags
worry about
over
doing
there.
exercises.
No, it
We're
all
good. We're
all
good.
happens in the field. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you
This
very
is just
much.
wonderful.